So speaking of trimming fat,
Right.
let me talk about Horizon and American
Right. So
Saga
I did not see
Chapter
this, but you will tell me about it.
Yeah, so when it comes to westerns, right? Like not the biggest fan of the genre, but I will honestly say, just to make it all heartwarming and stuff. Yeah, that is like the one type of genre I can watch with my dad, right? He loves westerns, and because he loves that, I watch him too. But I always seek like the classics, right? I wouldn't just put on like the
And
western
we have
channel
like
and
the
watch stuff.
modern. Yeah, we have a lot of modern westerns, like stuff like Yellowstone and things. So I was like, oh
Yeah.
well, if that's successful,
All right. Well,
this could be successful.
all right. Well, I'll confess something here, right? Good thing you bring up Yellowstone, right? So I have not watched Yellowstone as yet.
Right. Sure.
I
No problem.
know
Yeah.
people talk about that shit since it came out and hyping it up and whatnot. I just never
Right.
got around to it. I think it's because of the seasons and the prequels, all that kind of stuff. It was a lot. It was a lot, and already trying to keep up with other shows, right? So I just feel like I need just to sit down, like maybe at the start of the new year, maybe I might just jump into the first season and see what the hype is about, right? But yeah, when it comes to that show, yeah, of course, we know Kevin Costner is one of the stars, and I believe one of the guys behind the scenes with that, right? When it comes to Kevin Costner, I mean, legendary star and director as well, too. His Western, Dances with Wolves, which people thought was going to flop, actually ended up with the best picture, and actually is a great movie. It's just a show that I haven't seen in ages, right? But when it comes to like his other directorial stuff, whether it's like what it is by like Wyatt Earp or whatever it is, like I haven't seen his
Right.
other directed films, right? I only saw Dance with Wolves. I really enjoyed that film for what it was, right? But
Right.
with that, no, that really like kind of it was kind of leading the genre of the western into the 90s, right? And people make the argument that really where that genre kind of died, so to speak, was with a little masterpiece called Unforgiven from Clint Eastwood, right? So the point I get at with it is that the western, and you could look it up and see why, right? Is one of those genres that we understand its place in film history, right, and in world history and why it exists and whatnot, right? And it gave
Right,
birth to
right.
the spaghetti western, which pretty much changed the whole game, right? But yeah, what I mean, these days is you kind of really have to like scour through just home media or whatnot to find new films, right? Not saying that the western is completely dead, right? But they don't really draw in a large crowd, right? They don't really make a lot of money in the box office, right? With the rare exception of say like a Tarantino film like The Hateful Eight, or Django Unchained, or the remake
Right.
of The Magnificent Seven or Treat and the Human,
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, great films,
No,
right?
we call him your boy, who get cancelled, but we call him the Bullets now. Jonathan Majors. Okay.
Oh, right. The Hardy Fall.
Um,
Yes,
Hardy the Fall, right,
which I fucks with. I thought that was great, right?
Yeah, that was hard.
Yeah, that was
Very
hard. Yeah, hard, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I hear, right, that Kevin Costner of all people is going to be putting out a western, right? I was like, all right, okay, man, still doing anything, okay. Like I can hear behind the scenes, like he's done with Yellowstone, like some drama behind the scenes with him, so he's done with that. I guess, okay, whatever. But the catch with this movie here, Horizon American Saga, is that not only was this going to be an epic, 3 hours in length, but this was actually going to be the first of 4 films of similar
Okay, interesting.
lengths. Yes. So just be a little film nerdy here, right? So you show that this man clearly inspired by is a little movie called How the West Was Won, right? I never
Right,
saw it,
right.
but I know of how great it is. I know it is
I
one
watched
of the
this
greatest
once.
westerns of all time. I know of its scope, and really the sell is that you have all these big actors, and it's in this 3 hour plus epic film, right? And it's all these storylines where they kind of interlock together, right? Take note of interlocked, right? I'll get to that in a bit, right?
Right.
And I knew that this. Well, I also saw when we had this year's Cannes Film Festival that this was one of the movies that was being shown, right? But like another film made by a great director, this one by the name of Francis Ford Coppola, and also a long epic as well. Yeah, standing ovation, man. Everybody clapping for like
right.
10 minutes and shit. Woo! Great film, right? And then when
Right.
they go home, when the critics go home now and they go back to the hotels now, and they had a like hotel room, sorry, and they had to write out a review now. Literally the next day, people said, yeah, the show is great. No, the show is overlong.
Right,
It's
right, right.
slow. It this and that, and you just say like, wow, but people clap at that shit. They're like it's almost like a joke. It's always a joke when it comes to these film festivals, right? They always do like the standing ovation, almost like they're happy that the movie is done. They always kind of like the director will think, oh, people love the film, and then afterwards like, nope, we didn't really care for it. But that was the first red flag, right? But I kind of wanted to see for myself and see what happened, right? Also, I saw posters showing up in local theaters. So I was like, all right, well, maybe you'll get to see it there. And
Right.
nope, it did not show at all. But it came out digitally last week, so I checked it out, right? So what the show is trying to be about, right, is we have this basically a plot of land, right, called Horizon, right? It's but this person, this developer, if you will, kind of owns it, but he kind of left it out there. But it's basically he's basically, well, whoever the person is, right? It's never really said, right? But it's the whole idea of the promise of you could set up this basically you could set up home, you could set up shop here, you could set up home, you could set up you have a town, you have water, you have a you could set up your community there. Basically that's really what it is, right? So it's the promise of you don't have to be wandering the lands, you just come to this place, you have nice greenery and there's water and all that good stuff, and you don't have to worry about anything, right? So one settlement does that, right? But early, as in the opening of the show, they find out that was a serious mistake because it is in Apache territory. So yeah, them Apaches like, nah, we can't have them white people come on we land just so nah, and they orchestrate this really brutal attack on the settlers, right? And the survivors of said attack now end up they end up going to this army base now, so they have their own little community there, and they set up shop there, and they're just trying to survive, right? That's why I thought that this movie is about, right? But actually, there are a number of narratives, well, actually 3 more narratives that takes place. And in my head, I tell myself, oh, well, it's going to deal with Horizon, right? It's going to involve people who go into that settlement or go into that land and running into those same, Apaches and whatnot, right? But actually, they show people from different areas, right? And I guess in some way, shape, or form, they'll go to that place, but they don't really set it up properly. I'll get to that in a bit. One of those subplots involved Kevin Costner. I just there watching that first narrative play out. I wondering, hey, where's Kevin Costner in this? And he actually shows up, but he's in another story. And then there's a subplot involving the Apaches themselves and the person who orchestrated this attack, who is like one of the sons of the chief, and the chief is like, no, I don't like what it is you do. And it's like, well, fine, I gonna bust out and do my own thing. So he leave with he people, right? So there's that, right? And then now there's another subplot now involving the settlers who I assume are going to Horizon as well, right? And they deal with their own drama as well. And I'll stop.
Right. Okay.
So, this is me being charitable here at this point, right? So I gotta get the positives out the way, right? Cinematography, excellent across the board, right? Looks fantastic, right? You know what I mean? It really harkens back to that whole VistaVision era of westerns with these sweeping white shots, and it's just the grand epic scope of things, right? I've also found out behind after the fact that it actually was filmed in the States. It was filmed in Utah, like how they used to do back in the good old days, right? With John Ford and Howard Hawks, right? We're going way back with this, right? It's not like in Canada, for example, where I found out a lot of modern westerns are filmed there, right? Which is weird to me, right? But yeah, they film it in America and it's all cool, right? So yeah, you could see the passion that Kevin have for this movie, right? You could tell, I should say this series, right? This film series, right? Yeah, you could tell that this man really have a passion for the genre of it, right? Here's the problem with it, so this is where I have to stop with positives, right? See, it's one thing to have a passion for a genre, right? It's one thing to say, I wish that I could go into a modern movie theater, or, go on some streaming platform and just see like a new Western, like a real Western, like the stuff that harkens back to like, the epics of the 40s and the 50s and whatnot, right? I wish I could see that, right? It's one thing to wish and desire and spend your own money, because this actually, I believe, is self-financed, or I don't know if it's entirely self-financed by Kevin Costner, right? But he did put money into it, right? It's one thing to go out your way to make a film like this, right? Or make a series like this, right? But you kind of still have to tell a story. Right. And you kind of have to give the characters in that story that I should care about.
Right. What I heard about this is that I heard somebody making a speculation. I forget who it was. He made a speculation that how either it's going to be amazing or it's going to completely implode. No in between. Right? Because it's like, you're putting all your skin in the game with this. It's kind of weird, right? That he put that much of his own money in it. Like, why do? Like, you really believe in this project, Jared?
Yeah. And you could tell,
there's some Clint Eastwood level kind of thing going on here.
I know,
right? You know, like, all right, what?
Yeah,
you really believe in yourself, right? What, brother?
Yeah, but boy,
I mean, I can't knock that. That's skin in the game. I ain't saying no, but jeez, man, I know him do that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So, I when this movie ended, Dread, I was shocked. I was in disbelief, Dread, of how somebody could be so confident in what it is they're doing, Dread, that they just forget the basic elements of just a film in general, like, right? And it's even worse now because it's a friggin' Western, right? You know, the appeal of Westerns these days, right? So the main problem this movie has, right, is just these narratives that, going back to the word interlocked, don't even interlock. They don't connect in any way. The only bit of connective tissue that the show have is the promise of this new land, if you will, with Horizon. Is the whole idea of, if you go to this place, you know, you will have a happier life there. That's what it is, right? But you would think that these narratives will at least allude to that, or at least lead to that. Nope. It's just ever so often there's blinking and missing moments with the stuff outside of the army base, right? Where you will see somebody just spot a poster, just a random poster on a tree, right? Oh, Horizon. Oh, what is this? Oh, look at this, right? And that's it. That's the only connective tissue that this movie gives, right? So, in other words, what Mr. Costner is attempting to do, right? This is basically the setup of what we're gonna see later on in the next 3 movies, right? So I'll throw let me just throw like your average show that you see on streaming, right? Let me just say, House of Dragon or The Boys, right? You know, like how in those shows, right? You know, there's like one big conceit going on, but you have different subplots going on, and they sort of interlock in different ways, right? But they never lose sight. The show itself never loses sight of what the main thing is about, right? Imagine that in a movie, in a Western, right? An epic Western, where you don't even know what the conceit is. The conceit is just so bare.
Western is like more straightforward.
Exactly. It's just so unbelievably skeletal, to the point that, was there like a main conceit to begin with? Was there like a main, just something to drive everything that you see in there? No. What it is basically is, going back to Passion now, is Kevin just basically saying, I just want to show you how the West was back in the 1860s, whatever it was. I just want to take you back to that era where it was just people just wanting to survive, and they set up farms and they're just trying to live, man, you know what I mean? But there's always somebody who want to start some kind of conflict and all that kind of stuff. But none of this have to do with the Horizon land, right? Which is what the show is supposed to be about, right? So you don't even have a strong foundation to begin with, right? But you tell yourself, oh, well, the narratives at least gonna lead to something. Nope, they don't lead to anything at all, right? I'll get to the conclusion to that in a bit, right? So this is a spoiler, folks. You've been warned, EUE, right? So there's the subplot involving the settlers, right? The new settlers who just about, right? Involves Luke Wilson, right? He's the wagon master, if you will, right? He's the one who kind of ran the show, right? Here's the narrative of this section, right? There's this couple, right? This real stushy British couple, right? And he have an issue with them just being there lazy, doing that while everybody else working and trying to, pull their weight, right? And he was complaining about how they're not doing much and how they just taking the water because they don't have much water to share amongst the people and just taking the water and hoarding it for themselves, right? The conflict involves the woman, or the wife now, using that same water one night to bathe herself, right? And these two guys, just kind of peeping on she, right? And she make them out to Luke, and then Luke go and talk to them and say, well, she say that you was spying on she, and he's like, no, we didn't do that, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, all right, I'll keep my eye on it, and then you walk away, right? And they kind of watch she. That's the last you see of those people in that movie, Hus. Absolutely nothing about that connects to Horizon. Absolutely nothing about that has any interest or holds any emotional weight or nothing like that. It is just padding dread in the worst way dread. It is, again, it is just Kevin saying, I love Western so much that I just want to throw some sort of random scenario at you. But the idea is that you're supposed to watch it and enjoy it because it's a Western. You don't see these shows these days, man. So just watch it because it's a Western. But these stories don't lead to anywhere. They don't do anything. They don't add to the story. They're just random storylines that go absolutely nowhere. The one that kind of sticks to what the show is about is the stuff that takes place in the army camp with the survivors of the attack, right? And to the show's credit, they do have a follow-up with that where a settler or two in retaliation goes attacks the Apaches there, and it sort of stops at that point, right? But outside of that, everything else just sort of is just there now, you know what I mean? So long story short, right? Basically what we are seeing here is just a setup for like 4 narratives, and but it's like, all right, like this is the beginning of your saga. This is the beginning of the Horizon saga, and all we just gain is just basically what is just the setup of each scenario. But we still don't know what the real story is about, what it's all going to, what the goals are, what the main intention is. We don't know, but it's just it's all within this whole guise of, but it's a Western. You should be enjoying watching this. If you love Westerns, watch this. That's cool. And you get some Western stuff. You get like a couple shootouts here or there. Some people get killed brutal. Okay, that's fine. You get some nice little dramatic moments here or there. That's fine. The acting is okay for the most part. Whether it's Kevin Costner or, Michael Rooker, he was there. Danny Houston, Jenna Malone, Sam Worthington. Yeah, Sam Worthington is as well too. Like, all right, cool.
Okay,
I already mentioned Luke Wilson. But the narratives themselves went absolutely nowhere, and there's no like foundation to the story itself. So you're just there watching scenes play out. It's just like, why should I care? I see the characters and they're doing what they're doing, but why should I care? There's nothing about this that really says anything or does anything or adds anything to the story. So long story short, you just watch this show for 3 straight hours, Dread. And you just come out of it like there's nothing. You don't remember character names. You don't remember character motivations. And even if you remember a face or whatnot, it has absolutely nothing to do with the story itself. Because what is the story? Like, if this is why we seeing the setup of the story, shouldn't the story be set up early on? Why are we seeing all these narratives that go nowhere, right? And the show had the goal, right? The show had the goal to end with a montage, right, of scenes that we will see in what I assume will be chapter 2, because fun fact, chapter 2 is it was initially supposed to come out next month in August, but I think they scrapped that idea because of I think it's because of the whole box office receipts or whatnot with the first film, the first chapter. I'm not sure what it is, right? But yeah, basically it's not coming out in August, or maybe it will. I'm not sure at the moment, right? But the point is, they just show you a montage of just random scenes again of what we'll see in chapter 2, or what I assume will be the other chapters as well. Although I think chapter 3 started filming, and not chapter 4 as yet, right? But you show him all this stuff, right? I should mention also too, just lastly, this is like a multi-character kind of show, right? But like, again, you're not really sure which character I should latch on to, who I should root for, who I should care for, who I should not care for. Yeah, ultimately, I didn't care for anybody in this show. They were just there for the sake of being there to be like, oh, it's a Western. Did you enjoy watching Westerns? Look at me. That's what it is, right? But yeah, in this montage, I'm just seeing scenes. I'm just rolling my eyes like, I supposed to care about this? I really
Right.
supposed to care about any of this? And you have this music, this rousing music in the background, making me feel like all excited. It's like, no, nothing about this is exciting because I don't know what the story is about. Because the show didn't even tell me what the story is about over the course of 3 hours. It's only when I watch a couple of reviews, that's when they mention the whole Horizon thing and the whole thing of, the promise of Horizon. I didn't even pick up on that while I was watching the show. It was just kind of just there in the background, almost unnoticeable, to be honest, right? So that's what it is. But yeah, at the end of the day, let me just get you rated one time. 2 out of 5. I want my money back. Even though I watch this home, I want my money back. This was 3 hours of my life and not getting back. But talk about a disappointment. This is probably the biggest disappointment I've seen all year, right? Because it is from a veteran actor / filmmaker who should know better by now. And here's the weird part about it too, right? I know it's supposed to wrap up, but here's where I feel he getting at with this, right? I understand. We live in a world where we getting content through the form of, of streamable seasons of shows, right? So I get that's what he trying to do. He trying to kind of marry the, like, let me just say, like a season of a show. Like, let me just say House of the Dragon or The Boys. He wants to do that, but in cinematic style, right? But even with those shows, right? So for example, right? Let me just say that this first chapter was the first episode, right? And we just being introduced to all the characters, right? Even in a series premiere, dog, you still have an idea of, oh, this is what the show is about. This is where all these narratives are gonna lead up to. Somehow, maybe not all of them, but some of them will lead up to this. This is the conceit. This is what it's about. Don't just have people sit down for 3 hours and show me a bunch of Western stuff and, oh, look at Western, and you give me no story. You give me no conceit. Yeah, I have no idea of what the story is about. I'm just seeing narratives play out and they just don't add up to anything outside of, oh, it's a Western, you should enjoy because it's a Western. Nah, man, you could do much better than that. Like, okay, it's great that you're giving us the epic Western again, but still, tell a story. And if you want to make it like a multi-narrative thing, okay, fine, no problem. But still, tell a story. Have a point. Have a conflict. Have something to kind of connect these things together. I don't know if he's trying to be all Richard Linklater,
right.
and be like, you want to do like Slacker or I don't know, like this show, Shortcuts, for example, from Robert, I forgot the guy who did Shortcuts, right? Where it's just all these random stories and whatnot. But like, there's something that connects them there. And in this one, the only thing that connects them is you're watching a Western. That's it. You're watching a Western. That's the connective tissue we have with
But
this.
like they did when the Coens did Battle of Buster Scruggs, that had a theme and a kind of true line.
Yeah,
even though it was separate stories in general. But like,
that was an anthology. It was an anthology. Right. The narratives had a beginning, middle, and end. And this last thing I'll say, what we get here is just the beginning of these narratives. All of them feel like the beginnings, right? Even though there are conflicts involved, they just feel like the beginning. But what they're all leading up to, we don't know. But again, you're telling me, oh, but this is me going back to the epic Western, it's film history, folks. You had to do better than that, man. Especially in 2024, right? So no, I am not excited for chapter 2 or 3 or 4. I guess I'll watch them out of curiosity, boy. But as far as chapter 1 goes, think about this. Chapter 1, 3-hour film called Chapter 1. Boy, this did not work at all, boy. So, boy, talk about a misfire, Dread. So sorry, Costa. I mean, yes, your contribution to the genre is well deserved with that rules, man. But as a follow up to that, nah, man, you could do much better than that, man. Come on.
Right.
So, on to something a lot better now. Let me talk about Twisters, right? So, Ricardo, if you don't mind a way to do this substance, right? But yeah, Twister, just talking quick. Never saw the first Twister in theaters. Really? Just for me personally, at the time in the 90s, even though I did like me, I did like to go and see a big budget summer blockbuster. I wasn't really drawn into the environmental one, so I was not drawn into Twister or Volcano or Dante's Peak. It was just didn't rope me in, right?
Yeah.
Even though it had flashy visuals, all that kind of stuff, it just didn't rope me in, right? So years after the fact, I would see Twister on cable, and I enjoyed it, right? But I never like recapped it though, and I was going to in preparation for this. But I found out after the fact that this movie is, slight spoiler, a standalone sequel. So you don't really need to see the first one to really get the gist of it, right? I
exactly.
like that, right?
Yeah, they make there's a working reference to something in the previous, but I don't remember, like off the top of my head, I don't remember them like referencing, doing blatant references. It's not some Jurassic Park bullshit. They ain't doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
They didn't do that. Right.
Yeah, but I was hearing a lot of positive things about it too. And I mean, it's time, this guy who is on the rise right now, Glenn Powell. I mean, we talked about him with the great Hitman, from Richard Linklater as well, or later, right? It'll be a great film on Netflix right now. Yeah. And this actress Daisy Edgar Jones, who I'm not familiar with, but I know she's been in a few shows before. And we boy Anthony Ramos, right? Who we saw last year with Transformers, right? With that prequel, which was really solid in my opinion.
Which I liked.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I liked a lot actually.
Yeah. So yeah, I took it in theaters. Good thing too. Didn't see it in IMAX, and I mean, even with the appeal of it, I still wouldn't have seen it in IMAX. I feel like if I was a huge fan of the first movie, which I honestly I'm not, even though I do like and appreciate the film for what it is, I would go IMAX and be like, sound design and all that good stuff, right? But I got the gist of it, the feel of it, if you will, when I went to see the Caribbean Syllabus, right? But yeah, Ricardo, your quick history with Twister and going into Twister.
Twister. The original Twister was one of these movies that tapped into like nerd shit at the time. Like as a kid, I was into he had a dinosaur phase and he had a space phase and it had a tornado phase. And this movie came out in the right time, good time to get people into tornadoes and like just the utter weirdness of Earth weather, right? Just the idea of weather, how tornadoes are formed. You learn later about how a lot of fluid dynamics is literally incomplete by calculations. It has something called the Stokes equations. It is Navier-Stokes equations. Those things are impossible, so it have no way to like properly, predict how storms work and so on, so and all of this stuff, right? And yeah, you're into tornadoes because tornadoes cool. They're big and weird, and they fuck things up, and they do all kind of weird shit. Like, stick a straw in a tree or like blow out a whole a grocery store, but like none of the items on the aisle get touched. Shit like that, right? That has happened sometimes. And then the first movie I remember enjoying, this was Helen Hunt, and then the late great, what do you call him?
Bill Paxton, dude. Yeah.
Bill Paxton, thank you. Right. Yeah, and I remember having fun with the original movie. I thought it was looking cool. The special effects were quite impressive. That famous shot with the cow. And everything like that. It's one of those things you have to see on big screen, right? On big screen you see this big cow flying, you can't watch it on the TV. I forget who make that joke. One of them comedians make that joke, watching it on the TV and then see the cow around.
When
you watch it on big screen, it's like, whoa, that kind of stuff. Same thing with this. This new one. I'm kind of gonna say it a little uncharitable of it to say this, but it's Twister's Maverick. Sorry. That's what it is. It taps into the same energy, the plot, the way how the story is told as a sequel, super predictable. Like I'm watching it and saying, all right, that is what I go do. And beat for beat, I'm watching it and I was like, yeah, that's gonna happen next, and this gonna happen. And this character, okay, they're gonna say this thing. And sorry to say, just like Top Gun Maverick, I found it super straightforward and predictable. So yeah, wait about. Main character, Kate Carter, she was like I think college student, and she was working with Anthony Ramos back in the days, and they was like predicting a storm, and they had this like plan to, I forget what it was. I forget what the actual chemical was. I think is polyacrylate, sodium polyacrylate, if I remember correctly. It's that solution. If you put it in a tornado, it could slow down and fuck up tornadoes, and that's the plan. So they carry it a little further. In the original movie, it was making a way to reliably predict tornadoes and get proper data. And in this one, it's all about freaking out a way to shut down tornadoes, right? Apparently that's a good thing. So cool. Dangerous tornadoes just fuck things up. Good. And the plan failed terribly because it's this thing that just grew super fast and it killed all she friends except for Anthony Ramos. Then 5 years later, she worked in New York City in Noah. and Anthony Ramos come back to meet her to say, hey, let me go on, something weird happening in where they was. And, she kind of traumatized for the whole thing. And then when she meet, your boy Gen Plowell, Gen Plowell is the whole hotshot kind of guy who come through to make it work, to do your own thing. And yeah, that's about it. Again, it's Twister's Maverick. It's just like bigger conceits, no twists, just good special effects. It look good. But all the beats is super predictable. I know where it was going. Nothing predictable, but not bad. I had fun with this. It's just like it knows its audience. They know the audience. They know who they're tapping into in terms of this type of nostalgia. And people like the first film enough, so it's like this one gonna make it work. And it plays out like that. I did hate it, but super predictable. Again, it's pretty much Twister's Maverick. Now with more Glenn Powell. I mean, that's how it is. So I had not so much more to see. I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it because it looked good and it's well made, as far as that is concerned. So yeah.
But I like how you call it Twister's Maverick, right? So here's the thing, right? Yeah. So I don't know what went on behind the scenes after Twisters came out, right? Because if you remember, this was the follow-up to Speed, right? From Johnny Bond, right? Or Yanni Bond, right? Yeah, because this was his follow-up to Speed, right?
Right.
So I don't know if back then Universal had it in mind to do a sequel, right? And I can imagine because of how successful that movie was, they probably thought about that, right? But I feel, I could be wrong about this, right? But I feel because of the response of Speed 2, which came out a year afterwards, right? Cruise Control, also directed by the same guy, it probably turned him off and he probably just did not want to do a sequel for this, right? Why I say this too is that this feels like something that should have come out in the late 90s, specifically in the late 90s, right? Because if you remember in the early 2000s, that when Ron Emmerich, was at the height of his Roland Emmerich, was at the height of his creative powers. It's like, the day after tomorrow.
The problem is that Roland stepped up the game because they started stepping up the game of the disaster film. So it couldn't just be some normal disaster. It had to be like a real weird disaster. Because they started getting ridiculous with disaster. Anybody remember a little something called The Core? Remember that bullshit?
Oh, I avoided that movie.
Yeah, one of the most absolutely ridiculous movies ever. But it's a funnily absurd movie, but it's fun as hell, eh? And it's like, they had to ramp up the game so they can just do normal tornadoes. That is real shit. Nobody want real world shit. You had to ramp it up. I'm sorry to say it. I then did a sequel would have just been like Selena. No. You had to do some bullshit like The Core or again Day After Tomorrow, which was like this unprecedented weather event that frees up everything in literal seconds. Total nonsense, whatever.
Nah, but the show's got mentioned too, boy. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, and I will confess, I saw this shit twice in theaters. 2012, boy. Oh my god.
Yeah,
boy.
right.
Woo!
Yeah.
So dumb, but a lot of fun, boy. My god, that's like one of the best so bad good movies I've ever seen. You know what I mean?
So the escalation of it has have to be the thing. So that's why this coming out now is like, well, that's just pure nostalgia, though.
That's the thing, So a part of me feels like, initially we were supposed to get a Twisters 2 back in the late 90s, but because of what happened with Speed 2, it's like, we good, right? Maybe that was, the director saying, I'm good, right? So I don't want to say that Twisters is dated, because to me, it does not feel dated at all, right? But at the same time, it's harkening back to the first film, right? Which is fine, right? But you hit the nail on the head with Twister Maverick. That's the best way to describe it, right? Yeah. It's tapping into that same energy, you know what I mean? Where it's like, it's pure summer blockbuster goodness, right?
I can't remember if they mentioned the old characters from the thing, but here's the problem. I can remember the names of the old characters. Because it also had the late, great Philip Seymour Hoffman in that.
Yeah.
Right, so I can remember all the names of the old characters, and I didn't give it a rewatch.
Yeah, what I found out after the fact is that I don't think they did, what they just did was just make visual callbacks. So
well, no, the only thing is that the big plot device from the first one is there.
Yes.
That's the beginning, that thing with the sensors and the little spinning little fans to get it to float. That's it. That's what the Helen Hunt's character made. That was the device. That was the thing. That's all I remember. I'm like, that's the thing it's the same one, well, the same evolved version of it, because he said it was so old and he couldn't open the tubes open. That means it's like 30 years old or however old it was. That's the only reason I thought it was like the same device, or not the exact same device, but like something built around that time.
Yeah.
That's it.
And even me,
That's the
I know,
only connection I made.
yeah, and even I know was keeping my ears open, like, oh, I wonder if that referencing the old show, boy. This kind of like looking at it a little carefully now. But I was like, you know what?
Right.
It's not that type of show. It's one of those shows, sorry to say, where you have to kind of shut your brain off a little bit and just have fun with it, right? And that's what it is. Just like the first film, it mixes the, over the top grandeur of it with, some serious moments as well, right? So I do like the second act, this one scene this one sequence taking place at this rodeo. I like how that plays out. That was really, really intense. And, just going back to the first film, you have, a nice little callback to, where citizens had a run inside of a movie, had a hideout in this movie theater, right? So they do a nice little callback to that, right? Yeah, that being said, it is a fun ride though, but it is kind of predictable, right? Kind of by the numbers. You kind of know where it's going to go. You kind of know what characters are going to do and whatnot, So there wasn't really anything as far as like twists and turns and whatnot, right? And I guess that's fine, right? It's just about the spectacle and the fun.
No, it knows what it is, eh?
Yes,
it totally knows what it is. Like, let's be clear about that. It doesn't try to be anything more than it does. From what I understand, it's doing decent numbers, like in the box office so far. Like it makes sense because it has tapping into 90s marketing, old audiences who would be in the 50s now, whatever it is. That's it. It taps into that same energy. Like 90s cinema, 90s film audiences.
Yeah,
is a 90s movie. That's
exactly.
modernized and that's it.
Yeah, but at the same time, it still feels fresh and contemporary. I mean, for one thing, the soundtrack for it though, even though like I'm not familiar with all the artists in it though, but I did hear, I know that there's a particular song that this guy Jelly Roll did. I think that's like the main theme for the movie. But yeah, it's like this primarily like country soundtrack though, and I think like given the setting, it make a lot of sense, right? Cinematography very well done and whatnot. Again, just going back to the old film, you get that grand scale of things, right? Especially when you see vehicles driving towards the tornado itself, right? Sound design, of course, is fantastic though, right? I just love like those moments where as in nearing the tornado itself, is hearing that rain hitting the cars themselves and whatnot, and the hail and all that kind of stuff. And then of course when there's like thunder and lightning and wind and all that kind of stuff, you really feel like you're in the middle of that, right? So it totally works, right? Performances wise, everybody come and they do what it is they had to do. Whether it's Daisy Edgar Jones, she do she thing.
Yeah, she's good.
She's quite likable.
But I think the star is Paul. I think Paul is excellent in this.
Yes. He nails that whole swami storm chaser kind of thing, but he's also a YouTuber. But he also
I forget who was his parallel in the old one. I forget the actor. But he in this one he has a lot more heart. Like he's not a complete arsehole like the other character from the old one. Who's he acting now? It's a character actor.
I can't remember. I can't remember.
I think it's a guy from Tremors. Oh shit, what's this man's name, boy? I don't Wikipedia this.
Well, we keep it in the meanwhile. But yeah, I mean Glenn is likable and he's charming, right?
Yeah.
He
the balance is good.
Yeah. The ladies will like swoon over him, especially when he smile and whatnot and talk and thing. But I like that his character has heart and whatnot, right? So he's not like this is two-dimensional hot guy, right? That's what it is, right? Auntie Ramos, right? Even though he's not like the primary focus, I like how he's worked into the story. I like how he kicks off the story, so to speak. And you see some other people as well too. Like I didn't expect to see Kernan Shipka, from Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. She was in the beginning. She was one of Kate's
friend, right?
Right? And also I forgot to mention this in my Long Legs review. She was also in Long Legs, and she had like a really standout performance there, right? Just this one sequence basically, right? So yeah, she's doing things, right? And of course, it's just the thrills and just the excitement of, people just unrealistically, driving into these things like, whoa, tornadoes, yeah, man. But I like that they'll always remind you, oh, this shit is dangerous, be careful, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yes, there is the sensationalism of it all, and you can understand why they would chase storms, right? That's one thing that I like that the first film did, and this one did it for two, where they really establish why they do what they do. They're not just idiots driving in there like, oh, look at me, look at what I could do, and then they get killed. It's not like that. They have a purpose to doing what they do, so it's like that, right? But yeah, as far as the narrative goes, you just kind of know where it's gonna go to, and I wouldn't really call that a big gripe though. But I can imagine that for some people, especially those who
Because
expecting
my
something different, but like no, it kind of don't need to be different. It's one of those if it
yeah,
broke, don't try to fix it kind of thing.
yeah, no, for cynical bastards like us, it is kind of a problem. But like to me, once it's executed well, it's fine. Like once it's executed well, and it's executed well for the most part. The timing and thing into it again, it's super cliched, but I thought it was fine. Much like a Top Gun.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Now on the
Same.
subject of Top Gun Maverick, now just to wrap things up, right? I will not put Twisters up there as one of the best films I've seen this year so far. I will put it as an honorable mention, hopefully by year's end. I'm saying this too because
Right.
at least with Top Gun Maverick, that actually continued the story. That took the characters that we know and love
Right.
and took the conceits and whatnot and explored in not so much original ways, but in really clever ways. That's all I'll say, right?
Right.
So it kind of transcends. It's just, it's a remake of the first film. It's like no, they actually take what we
Right.
know and love from the first film and just kind of expand it, right? And give it a fresh coat of paint, if you will, right? This one is
Right.
just not so much a remake of the first film, but it kind of works again as a
No, not
standalone
really.
sequel. So it's kind of like that.
Right.
It kind of works independently of the first film. That's what it is, right? And I'm not saying that
Right.
they should have connected the two, but I feel like maybe if they did just a little bit more, or maybe if they found a way to, I don't know, incorporate some of the old characters, maybe Helen Hunt, maybe.
I'm glad it didn't. I'm glad it didn't.
Okay.
Like organically, it makes more sense like this. I just thinking in terms of like just when I said Twisters Maverick, I just meant more. Oh, this is just a sequel to a thing from
Yeah.
an earlier time, and you just pump it up and make it look sexier and bigger, and that's like it's just, but it's a workably organic story. To me, this is better. Like I prefer this.
All right.
Right?
Yeah.
You
Well, yeah.
You just hint at the work of the past. You don't need to show a picture of Helen Hunt or any of that nonsense. Not even that. I don't even notice that. Like I was trying to look and say, wait, where Helen Hunt or Bill Paxton or Elway, or whatever it is. Like, where's these characters? Nope.
Yeah.
Didn't do that. I was expecting that though. They didn't.
Right.
Moving on. Good.
Yeah,
Right.
so this is one of those rare sequels, folks, where you don't need to see or remember the first film all that well to really enjoy it, because you just get what it is you get. If you are not
Right.
into these environmental thriller / adventure films, so to speak, yeah, you wouldn't really enjoy this one. But if you're into that and you just it's the experience of it all and you're just having fun with the sensationalism of it all, then you will enjoy it. But yeah, if you never cared for Twister or any film or similar films like that, God forbid, like Sharknado or something like that, for example, you wouldn't care for this at all. But I think Twisters deliver for it delivered the goods, right? But
Yeah.
I still wouldn't call it like a best of the year, but I will not be surprised if by year's end people have it on the list. For me, I'll put them on honorable mention. Like I feel like maybe if I just watch it over, unfortunately, it might be in my house, but because I don't see myself going IMAX to see it at all, nor do I see myself going back to theaters to see it in a hurry, right? But if I watch that again, I'll be like, yeah, I enjoy it a little bit more, but still not as much as I wanted to, right? Unfortunately, I feel it's just, just the timing of it all. But still, for what it is, it's out, and yes, it is a definitive it's a pure, I should say, summer blockbuster, and I can't be mad at that, right? So for me, rating wise, I'm gonna give this a strong 3.5 to like 4 to 5, man. It's worth checking out on the big screen. If you're a fan of the original one, you'll absolutely love this one. You don't have to go out your way to see it in IMAX, but if you're that kind of person who have to get the best experience, then I guess go there. But now you could just go in a normal cinema and just make sure that the speakers working real good and shit, and have fun with it, man. So yeah, right. But yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts on it?
Yeah, as I said, I went in, I expected, to enjoy it. Super predictable, no doubt. But that didn't hurt it so much for me. But as I said, they just needed to, I don't know. This is what I expected and is what I got, so it's fine. And I know they just playing to the audience. It'll probably do decent numbers in the box office because it's a old school marketing. They went old school with it. They just structured it in such a way just to cater to put a certain type of nostalgia that is not like insulting or contrived or anything like that. It's fine. They just tell a story and they just remind you of the past, but not be the past. In a good way. As better as a good rating. That's it. Didn't hate it because it's just telling a solid enough story for what it was, in my humble opinion.